Good evening, everybody. Mark Simpson here for your best year ever. I see that we have folks here, and Eileen, hello, hello. Thanks for going in the chat room there and letting me know that you're here. Who all is on tonight? I'm curious as to who is here, who's joining us, and wow, this is our fourth and final week of our best year ever. And we are getting ready. It's the 30th. It's hard to believe that we will rock 2016 before we even know it. So I am super curious as to who all is here. I see Emma, I see Missy, I see Erica, I see Eileen. Wow, 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 wow. So great time indeed. I need to hit a few buttons here on my computer to make sure that I've got this, let's see here. I've got the screen sharing all going. Take a few seconds here. So I'm very curious. What have you gleaned from the past 3 weeks? What is it that has really jumped out at you? And what has been helpful? What have you been working on? What have you been thinking about over the last 3 weeks? I would love to see what you have to say. Put that in the chat bar and just give me an idea of what it is that you have been experiencing through this process. I love to know that something is working, and that it has impacted you in some kind of way. So as we've all said here, and so I'm going to focus on disciplines, those simple disciplines. That's so true, Eileen. If we'll focus on the little things, that will make the biggest difference. Anything else that you've been working on? Anyone else? Discipline, pushing myself, says Emma. I have readjusted my sales. Excellent. The set of the sales, focusing on goals. Excellent. Well, as most of you already know, I'm Mark Simpson. I am a life coach. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a counselor, an entrepreneur. You can see a few of the brands, the things that I've done in my life. And I'm a realtor with Keller Williams, and launched Mississippi House, and have had a lot of fun with that. Hang on a second. I am hoping that I did not lose my. Okay, I think I'm back. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me, if we're all good to go here at this point. I want to make sure that I am here. I'm here. I'm wondering if you can hear me. Just give me a quick read real quick. I see a yes. Yes, I can. Awesome. Well, super. Well, here we go. We are back. For whatever reason, Google decided to bump me out of here, but hopefully this will be the very end of technical difficulties. This is our fourth and final week for our best year ever, and we're going to deal with some simple things. It's not going to be a long event tonight, but really that of, if we're going to take our whole year and we're going to focus on making it our best year ever, then we're going to be focusing on financial freedom and communication. Those are the last couple pieces that I think we have to pull together and to focus on, so that we can have the absolutely best year ever. So with that, just a few things that I want us to look at. What do you do with a dollar? That's one of the things that we've got to ask ourselves as we move forward. As a matter of fact, my daughter, who is 16 years old, came in and she said, "I don't have any money." And let me tell you something, the money has been flowing to that child ever since she was the youngest of young. When she'd go through the grocery store, people would hand her dollar bills. She's just a beautiful young girl, a magnetic personality. But I don't know what it is. Money, she just attracts money, but it's a sieve. It just flows right through her hands. And we had a little discussion, knowing that I was going to talk to you about this tonight. And so I would just say to you what I said to her, which is, what do you do with your dollars? What can you do? So I am curious, for those of you who are watching right now, what do you do with a dollar? When a dollar comes in, do you have a plan for that dollar? Dave Ramsey said that we call it currency because money is a lot like water. It flows. And if you don't direct that flow, it's just going to dissipate and go everywhere, make a mess for you, and won't actually be something very, very effective in your hands. You know, money is one of those things that you can harness it and cut through rock. So, or water is, and money is the same way. If you harness it, you can do amazing things. So here's a challenge for you. And this challenge is for 2016 and beyond. And it is that for every dollar that touches your hand, that comes into you, that's given to you, that you earn, I want you to learn to live on 70%. On every single dollar, I want you to learn to live on 70%. And that means that of the other 30%, there are things that you've got to do with that. Now, my challenge to you is take the first 10 cents of every dollar and give it to charity. Let that money go to somebody else. Let it go to your church. Let it go to an organization. Let it go to those that are needy. Let you develop for yourself the set of the sail of abundance. When we practice the discipline of giving, we are saying to ourselves and to others that there's an abundance of wealth out there. When we hold on to that money, we actually approach it with an attitude of scarcity. And the funny thing is if you approach money with scarcity, an attitude of scarcity, and you hoard it and you don't give first, well, money becomes scarce for you. And so that simple discipline of taking a dime out of every dollar and giving it to charity will do more for your success than anything else. The second 10% is my challenge to you, is to put that in an active capital fund. An active capital fund is, think about it. We live in one of the greatest countries in the world. We're a capitalistic society. It's learning to take 10% and set it aside and say, I will invest this money in a capitalistic endeavor, a business venture where I can earn a profit. You know, it's been said that profits are better than wages. Wages will earn you a living. Profits will make you a fortune. And if you can set aside 10% of every dollar, so that you have that set aside, that when opportunity knocks, a business opportunity, you can take advantage of it. If opportunity knocks and maybe there's a car that you can buy low, have it cleaned up, and then sell it for a couple $1,000s more, you have the money there on hand where you're actively participating in the capitalistic system. If there comes along an opportunity to buy a business, some of you are in real estate and you've got money set aside into your active capital fund where you're buying more signs to put in front yards, where you're investing in your business. If you're not setting money aside to be a business builder, then you're not ever going to get ahead and create wealth. Wages are good, profits are better. The last 10% of any money that comes in, my challenge to you is to put that in a passive capital fund. That's where you're going to your IRAs, your retirement funds. You're taking your money and you're handing it to somebody else who will actively put that money to work. That's where our stock market is. And one of the things that I would highly recommend is begin to educate yourself on money. And the two best books, and these really aren't in order. Number one, and I've mentioned this before, is I'd highly recommend going out, spending about $10 or less and getting the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. George Clason wrote this book in the 1920s, and it's been responsible for more millionaires than any other book out there. And it's a simple book. It's written in fable format, but it makes so much sense of personal finances. So I get that book yesterday. The second thing is get a book like Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, where he goes through having interviewed the greatest investors of our time, where you become financially literate when it comes to passive investments, where you're investing in the market, not yourself. And so if you will learn to live on 70 cents of every dollar, 10% to charity, 10% in a business fund for when opportunity knocks, and 10% into a passive retirement fund, the IRA, the things like that, and learn to live on everything else, you're going to make it. Now, here's the funny thing. This is an ideal. And many cannot start at 70, 10, 10, 10. But my challenge to you is to start somewhere. Maybe you can only start out at 97, 111. Maybe your finances are as such that you can only afford to give away 1% to charity and set aside 1%, a penny out of every dollar, for an active capital fund. And maybe you could figure out that you could put 1% that you're going to save up where you can put it into an investment account. The problem is not how much money you have. The problem is your plan. And no matter what your percentage is, 5%, 5%, 5%, 1%, 1%, 1%, and the rest, or 10%, 10%, 10%, start with a system. Follow the system. That's the simple discipline. Because let me tell you something, as that money grows, as that money builds, you'll find yourself at a point where you can't spend 70% of your income every year. Could you imagine reaching the place where it would be unwise to live on 70%? You might, by following a strategy like this, arrive at a place where you say, you know, I live on 20% of my income, and I'm able to give away so much more. I'm able to fund businesses in greater ways. I'm able to sock away even more in my investments. It starts not with money, but it starts with when the amounts are small, being disciplined to have a plan to set it aside. Now, this might not be for you, but find a plan and stick to it. Be disciplined with your money. You know, sadly, there are a lot of people that just say, well, I don't know where it all went. Well, do you think people are going to come in and trust you with much if you don't know how to manage the little amounts? If you can manage the small amounts, larger things will come to you. So that is my challenge to you, is from a money standpoint in 2016, live on less so that you can give away more, you can invest more, and you can prepare more for opportunity. You will never get ahead if you're always living by debt. So let's go forward from here. Couple things, last things before we move beyond this, is learn to keep strict accounts. Learn to focus on what's coming in, where you know exactly where your money's going. You've got to learn to manage it well. And hang on one second. There we go. I've got something happening with my computer. Make sure, can y'all still hear me? We all good? But also, as you're managing your money and you get a real handle on it, I want you to learn to have a positive attitude about money. I want you, I'm having some technical difficulties here, folks. I actually upgraded my phone. And when I upgraded my phone, it's trying to back up to iClouds, and it's doing all kinds of crazy things to my computer and my phone, and I can't figure this thing out. So as long as we're still talking and you can hear me, we're good. Sorry for the distraction, folks. So if you're going to succeed in finances, back to focus. You've got to learn to manage your money. Keep strict accounts. Know where every penny goes. Think of your money as a herd of sheep. Would you count the sheep every single night? Would you know where your sheep were? When they would return to the pen, would you not look and say, hey, wait, I'm missing a sheep. I need to go find my lost sheep. Of course you would. But a lot of times we just let that money run right away, and we don't give a good accounting. We don't keep a close look on our money. And so it slips away and the wolves get it. But the positive attitude, let me transition to that. Have you cultivated the attitude of, I'm happy to pay my taxes? I know that that's not always fun. But the fact of the matter is it's okay to pay tax. Now, yes, our government, we could argue, requires too much, but where else are we going to go? Until we vote some changes, don't approach the paying of taxes with negativity. Because once again, it comes back to scarcity or abundance. Have an attitude of positivity when it comes to taxes and when it comes to bills. Every time you pay a bill, and you're paying down debt, you're increasing your financial standing. I have the ability to pay my bills. And you know what? It could be worse. You might not have the ability to pay the bills. So approach your money with positivity. Approach the spending of bills and paying of taxes with an attitude of, thank you that I live in a country where I have opportunity to earn and grow and pay taxes, where I can continue to pay bills and I can reduce my debt and I can increase my assets and grow my wealth. I challenge you to develop a positive attitude. So for 2016, get your plan for your finances and learn how to manage it well. All right, let's move along. If you're going to succeed, you've got to become great at communicating. You've got to learn how to use your words and to transform the lives of others. You see, words can work miracles. A word aptly spoken, it's been said, is like taking a gold apple and putting it in a setting of silver. A word can turn a heart from broken to hopeful. A word can open up the mind of a child to see all manner of possibility. A word properly spoken can take somebody who's discouraged and empower them with the courage to take another step. What you say can have a huge impact on others. And so I don't want you to be lazy when it comes to communication. I want you to become someone who works on becoming a great communicator in 2016, because we are in an information age. We are in an age where wherever you go, and your level of success is going to be dependent upon how well you can communicate. And so in that area, there are a couple things that I want you to do. Number one is have something good to say. We live in a world that has a lot of negativity. We live in a world that you hear of rants. You pull up Facebook and you see people posting all these negative things, and I want you to be the one that people say they always communicate a good word. They're always sharing something positive. They know how to say something that uplifts me. If you will be the person who uses your words to build instead of tear down, your success is assured. So in order to do that, there are a couple things that I would recommend. One is expand what you can say by taking on new interests. What's one thing in 2000, what's one new interest that you can take on in 2016? What is one thing that you could say, I'm going to read about that this year and take on 5 pages a day on a new topic so that I can expand my knowledge and my interest, and I'll be more interesting. Are you taking the time to and this kind of fits with the second one, is to be curious again. The second thing is that of fascination. You know, childhood wonder is an amazing thing. It's annoying when they're 2 years old and they say, what's this, and why, and why, and why. But children approach the world with such fascination. And I want to challenge you to approach 2016 with fascination. I want you to open your eyes and look around, remove the blinders, and start to take in the wonder of the world around you, and then share that. Tell others about what you've seen. Express that gives you an opportunity to communicate something that's going to build up and uplift. But here's the thing, and I did this many years ago. I made this trade. Is I decided that I would approach life with fascination instead of frustration. You see, frustration is anger over my blocked agenda. And when we go throughout life and we have just our locked, rigid agenda, and I'm not talking about having our goals. We need to have goals. We need to have our sails set properly. But every single day, we can get trapped into such a rut that when something doesn't go our way, we just get frustrated and angry. And I want to challenge you to swap that for fascination. The next time a car pulls out in front of you and you're trying to get to an appointment on time, and they slow you down and your frustration starts to bubble up, I want you to trade that for fascination. Say, well, isn't that fascinating that person decided to drive in the left lane? What is it about driving in the left lane on the interstate and going slower than the rest that appeals to this person? That's a fascinating thing. And take that time to become curious about it instead of blowing up at them. And I know you're not always going to succeed at that. When your child does something that is just crazy, instead of judging it, just say, well, that's fascinating. When you have a deal that falls through, you can panic, or you can say, well, that's fascinating. Let me learn from this. I want you to approach this year with wide-eyed wonder and see how many things that you can trade frustration for fascination. The next thing, if you're going to be a great communicator, is you've got to learn to be sensitive. You've got to learn to be sensitive to where other people are. How are they feeling? What are they doing? How are they responding to you? You've got to know how to say the right thing at the right time. You've got to be sensitive to the people that you're speaking with. When you're on a sales call, you've got to know and observe and take in, what is it that this person in front of me needs? What are their fears? What are their concerns? What are their hopes? And the greatest way that you can become a great communicator is to really use the 2 ears more than you use your one mouth. Be sensitive, soak in, and be aware of where your audience is. And then I want to challenge you. Hang on one second. I need to plug in my computer before this thing goes out. I'm telling you, this has been a fascinating night because the technology has just been filled with gremlins. The last thing that I think that we've got to look at in this area is you need to improve your knowledge. And this comes along with interest, but become a student of communication. Become a student of how to present better. This is not something that will come automatically. Yes, some people have gifts of communication, but you can improve upon that by reading more, increasing your knowledge, increasing your vocabulary, looking for areas where you can bring more to a conversation. I want you to learn to say what you're saying well. Say it with sincerity. If you aren't sincere about what you're wanting to communicate, don't say it. There's some things that you've got to learn to repeat. I found in training marathoners that it is in the process of repetition that mastery occurs. Think of when you're communicating, you're trying to take an idea and transfer that into another person. And this idea that has to move from air deep down in your lungs and go across your vocal cords that create vibrations and move through the air and create little drum beats on the ears that then get turned into electrical impulses that shoot into the brain. And then all of a sudden that air that goes from vibrations to drum beats to electrical impulses into the brain of another person is an idea, a concept. And that's what communication is. And sometimes what we're saying doesn't have a place to fit in their mind. The picture I have is that of a mail clerk in a mail room who has a stack of mail, and they're going through all the little mail slots, putting the mail in the right place for the right people. And they come along to a piece of mail and they look around and they don't have anybody by that name. And they go, I don't have a box to put this mail in. And so they just set it aside or drop it on the floor. Many times what we say to our children, to our coworkers, to those people that we manage, those people that we lead, they don't have a mail slot to receive that yet. But if we'll be patient, if we'll be fascinated by the process of communication, and we continue to repeat the basics over and over and over, they will develop that mail slot. And it will go in there at some point and they'll go, oh, that makes sense now. Why did you tell me that sooner? And you'll just laugh because you'll see the pile of things that you've said over and over and over again on the floor that they just didn't have a place for it to fit. But now it makes sense. I see that in my daughters that are in their 20s now. They're waking up to, oh, and yet we've been saying that for 20 something years. But now the mail slots are open. And the idea, because we didn't grow frustrated, we just were fascinated by this process and repeated and repeated and repeated until they were ready to receive it. Have you had that experience? Have there been things that have been said over and over and over in your life and you just didn't have the mail slot to receive it? And all of a sudden one day that appeared and all of a sudden it took it in and it changed and aha, I see it now. That's the beauty of saying it well. So say things sincerely, say things with repetition, be willing to keep teaching, and learn to say things at times with brevity. There's times when you've got to learn to say less, to have a greater impact. I think it was Mark Twain who said, I would have spoken much shorter if I had had more time to prepare. It takes far more energy to say it well in fewer words than to ramble on. I had to give a speech last year to a group of about 5,000 people. And they told me that I only had 8 minutes to deliver my talk. And in this 8 minutes, and you can see it if you go to marksimpson.coach on my About page, these 8 minutes, I was kind of blown away by the thought of what can I say that will have lasting impact in 8 minutes? Is there any way to say something that will motivate and inspire and leave a lasting impression in just 8 minutes? And as I started to look, I came across Winston Churchill's great speech that he gave in the throes and in the difficult times of World War II of never give up, never give up. And I realized that total speech that has stood for all these years as a great sign of motivation was only 4 minutes long. And I said, goodness, I'll get twice the time to have to have less impact. But if he can do it in 4, give me 8, I can have a difference. And it took me 2 weeks of solid practice to deliver an 8-minute speech. But in that brevity and in that preparation, I was able to have a lasting impact. Tammy says it will be fascinating to see me say it with less words. That's true. It is a fascinating process. And as I already mentioned, work on your vocabulary. Hey, my chat, why not take a word a day? And over the next, every day, look up one new word, and throughout that day, add that to your vocabulary. As we're getting older, that will help with your brain functioning, but it will also allow you to be a more gifted communicator. When you can paint with many more colors than just the small crayon box of your words, when you can fill out your communication toolbox with all of the tools instead of just a hammer, you'll be far more persuasive and impactful. Learn to read your audience. If you're going to succeed in communicating, you've got to know who you're talking to. And in that process, learn how to open your eyes. Read what you see. When you're talking to people, look at them, make eye contact with them, observe their body language. If they're leaning towards the door, you don't have long to talk. If they're leaning in, you can linger a little bit. If their arms are crossed, well, you got a little rapport building. If you're going to communicate and succeed, you've got to look at their body language and learn to read it and know what it means. Become a master at reading body language, because that's when you're going to know which tools to reach into your toolbox to pull out, and when to cut it short, and when you can go in a little bit harder. Wherever that is, learn to read what you see. Learn to read what you hear. As I mentioned, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we'll listen twice as much as we can speak. And if you'll learn to listen to what your people are saying, don't be afraid of silence. Great communicators are okay not communicating. The fact of the matter is, and I know this is a double negative, is you cannot not communicate. And sometimes being comfortable communicating with silence as you listen to someone else speak will speak volumes about how you value them. So learn to hear. Learn to listen. Learn to ask the questions that draw them out. If you are in sales, learn to ask the questions of what is it that you really desire? If our working together were to work really, really well, what would have to happen for us to walk away from this place where you're going to brag to everybody that we work together, that you're going to tell everybody how wonderful it was to work with me. If you will listen to what they have to say, they're giving you the cheat sheets to their heart. Listen to the complaints of your audience, because complaints are the cheat sheets to someone's heart. Listen to the complaints of your spouse. Those are the cheat sheets to their heart. And also learn to read what you feel. Listen to your gut. What's your gut telling you? My daughter recently told of how she met with a client. She's a professional photographer, and her gut was just flip-flopping. The girl was devaluing her work. She was looking for a cut at every angle. She just knew that this was going to be a tough person to work for as a client. And my daughter, against her gut, took her on as a client. And here she is months later, regretting every bit of it. And the resentment has built, the frustration, not yet fascination yet, but all of those pieces were building. And I, in talking to her about this, I asked her, I said, sweetheart, what did your gut tell you when you first met with her? She said, my gut told me that she was going to be a problem. And I said, and how come you didn't listen to your gut? Well, I don't know. Sweetheart, listen to your feelings. Listen to your gut. Some audiences you just don't need to speak to. Some audiences you need to say, you know what? I have heard what it is that you're wanting, and I have recognized that I am not the one to give you that which you need. I'm going to recommend some other people for you because I am confident that, number one, you deserve the best, and I'm in this circumstance not the best for you. And so I'm going to offer you an opportunity to work with somebody that will just be right there to scratch your itch. When you're working to communicate well, you've got to listen to your gut as well. All right. You've got to learn in communication when to have some intensity. Learn to communicate with your emotions. Put more of you into what you say. Yes, that's a little joke. Camping is intense. But you've got to learn how to add your emotion to what you're communicating. Don't be afraid to pack yourself into a message. Pack yourself into what you have to convey to somebody that you're coaching or leading or helping. Here's a general rule of thumb, is the more they know you care, the more intense you can get. The more somebody knows that you really care, the more you can pull out the strong emotions. You can't get tough on a stranger, but you can get tough on the child that knows you love them. You can't get tough on somebody just passing, but somebody that you've built the rapport with, and you can say, no, this isn't right for you. Those words are going to carry much more weight because you put more of yourself into it. Build those relationships. In closing this series, I want us to talk about just these last little pieces. You know, we've talked today about little disciplines that you can take moving forward to change your financial world. It's as simple as living on less and having a purpose for what's extra. Learning to communicate, and I just want to challenge you to become a student of communication so that your words can transform lives. But I want to just kind of wrap this up by saying there are some things that can turn your life around. Jim Rohn calls it the day that turns your life around. And for some, that day is a day of disgust. I've had one of those days before where I just looked in the mirror and said, I'm disgusted with my health. I did that at 37 years old, and I realized at 200 pounds, 5'9", sitting on my tail, listening to issues all day, and was winded just walking around the block, that I was disgusted with that. A young man and out of shape. And I got disgusted. And a year later, I ran my first marathon. There have been times when I was disgusted with my financial situation, and I just said, enough. And disgust can feel negative, but it can be the very thing that turns your world around. I heard of one woman, a very powerful, successful businesswoman, was asked, how did you get to this place? And she said, I tell you where it started. It was 10 years ago, and I stayed at home and I worked at the house. My husband was the only provider, and I went to him and I asked him for $10. And he looked at me and he said, what are you going to do with that? She said, by the end of that day, I said, I will never ask for another $10. And she began to work hard on herself and learn about opportunity, and she became quite powerful. Now, the thing is if you have a place in your life right now that as you evaluate yourself, you're disgusted with it, let that be a motivator to propel you into 2016 with, I will not stay here anymore. This stops now. Disgust can be the very thing that turns our life around. Is there an area of disgust that you can tap into to motivate you? If there is, use it to your advantage. Also, when you make a decision, we talked last week about decision being that of cutting away from yourself any other option but what lays ahead of you. And I think that is an important thing, is to make some decisions of, I will do this. I'm putting my name on the line. Tammy asks, do you consider disgust as a powerful why? It can be. It can be a powerful enough why. It won't stay there. You want to move that, let disgust be the thing that gets you from the sedentary place to action, and then finding that passion to move you beyond. But yes, sometimes it takes disgust to get you moving. Sometimes it takes disgust to make the decision to say no longer. Be willing to make a few decisions. I will. Desire can change your life. And desire is one of those things that it's interesting. You can't always control it. Sometimes it will hit you out of the blue. Sometimes it comes in a song, or sometimes it's an inspiration from a movie. But desire can be something that will turn your life around. And so can resolve. Just, I resolve. And I know we're about to enter into 2016, and people are looking at their New Year's resolutions. Don't let resolve be like a resolution. Resolutions, most of them are gone by January 20th, sometimes January 2nd. But my challenge to you is to find those areas that you say, I'm going to do this, or you're going to find me dead on the side of the road trying. I'm going to climb that mountain, or I'm going to be dead on the side of the mountain, but I'm going to do this. I will make this happen. Is there something that you must resolve to accomplish in 2016? Is there something that you say, I must, and I will not let anything stand in the way of that? Make those kind of resolutions for 2016. And if you will take those things that you say, I must have, I must accomplish, I must do, I must become in 2016, and you say, I will work on this until I can, or I can't. That word until says, I'm not stopping. I will go until I get it. I will go until I can't. I will go until you find me on the side of the road. When you want your goals as badly as you want your next breath, when you're being held underwater, you will make it happen. And so dig deep, my friends. Look through your life. Don't try to go in a million directions in 2016. Over these last 4 weeks, we've zeroed in on some things, and I hope you've distilled it down into a handful of things, about 5 or 6 things that you say, I am going to do this. And maybe 2016, you want to just laser focus into one big thing with 3 subsets to that will make all the difference in the world, to make your 2016 your best year ever. But if you will bring the until attitude, I will get a hold of my health. How long? Until I've got it. I will I will study Spanish. How long? Until I master it. I will run around the block. How long? Until it no longer wins me. And then I'm going to run 2 times around the block, and I'm going to stretch and expand myself. Whatever that is, find those things that you're willing to say until I can or I can't, and go for it. I've enjoyed being with you guys these past 4 weeks. Look for more things to pop up on marksimpson.coach. I'll put them on Facebook as well. These all have been recorded, and you can go back through at marksimpson.coach and watch these, review these, share them with some friends, encourage them to go to marksimpson.coach and sign up for free to watch these 4 sessions. And if there's ever anything that I can do for you, please let me know. If there's a topic you'd ever want me to talk on, I'd love to have those ideas. And I just want to thank you for being here consistently and faithfully over these last 4 weeks, and challenging me to give my best. And I wish you the most success, a life full of love and laughter, of fascination and success. And let's have an amazing 2016 all together. Happy New Year. Take care, everybody.